Good morning, everyone. I think we will begin, and my colleagues will be keeping an eye at those late arrivals and letting them in the room as we are working through it. So, my name is Natasha Borchanin. I'm the program manager for Southeast PA Apex Accelerator, formerly known as PTAC, and I want to welcome you to today's presentation. As a refresher for those of us who might be new to our program, our mission is to assist businesses in learning how to be successful selling to government agencies, federal, state, and local through seminars like this one or one on one counseling sessions. We are funded by a cooperative agreement with the DoD Office of Small Business Program, and all of our services are free of charge. There are many Accelerator locations nationwide, and our Southeast PA office serves the following counties: Berks, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Lehigh, Montgomery, Northampton, and Philadelphia counties. And I would like to welcome you to the first of the September series of introducing you to navigating marketing to government. And our guide through this session today is my colleague and a senior government marketing specialist, Bruce Downing, hosted at Widener University. Bruce has over 30 years of experience in business and education and has served as an executive in a number of information technology companies. He utilizes his experience starting for businesses in IT sector, all of which obtain government contracts. We are lucky to have Bruce as a part of our team to help support small businesses with their government procurement journey. If you have questions, please post them in a chat and we will make sure that we have enough time to answer them. End of our session today is close to 11 o'clock. So at this point, Bruce, welcome, and I'm going to let you take over from here on out.
Great, thank you, Natasha. Good morning, everyone. Let's get right on here. I hope everybody can see the screen. Slides up here now. So Natasha has covered some of this, but we are, as it says, the Procurement Technical Assistance Program has changed. So we're no longer called PTACs. We're now called Apex Accelerators. And we still operate under many of the same rules, give a lot of the same kinds of services. So we are federally funded. We provide no-cost government contracting assistance. And I will cover a lot of what our services entail this morning. As Natasha said, we serve Berks, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Lehigh, Montgomery, Northampton, and Philadelphia companies. So there is a good live link so that if you get the PDFs of today's session, we will, you'll be able to see the live links for this information. All right, so our scope of helping people with government contracting covers federal, state, and local government programs. Today, I will be mostly talking about federal, but some of the same characteristics of state and local will also serve you well if you get this education. So we will be talking today about the government procurement process to what we call making you procurement ready. We'll talk about specific programs for small businesses. We'll talk about what you have to do to get ready to market your services or products to government agencies. And we'll talk a beginning of government marketing strategies that we have found to be useful over the years and the resources you can use to be able to take advantage of these marketing strategies. So today I'm really going to be giving you a thumbnail description of all of the services that we offer. And again, what we say is that what we will do in our services to you is that we'll educate and we will advise, but it's up to you to do the work to get it to happen. And it's no charge for our education or advice. So in federal government, it's the largest market in the world by far. They purchase just about any kind of product or service offered in commercial markets. The purchases by state and local government entities offer additional opportunities to you. And as I said, in order to have success, you'll need to become procurement ready. So these are some of the success factors we find. And that is, before you attempt to be a prime government marketing company, and prime meaning that you are accountable to the government for the performance of a contract. That's called a prime contractor. We will talk about subcontracting as one of the options for you to consider, and that would be as a subcontractor to a prime government company. However, these prime government contractors, we recommend that to get to that stage, you need to develop or update your business plan. So if you don't have a business plan now, we are also associated with small business development centers, and they can help you develop that. So in developing that business plan, you will need to deal with marketing, operations of your company, finance, some of those topics. And the way we position ourselves is to say that in that business plan, we specialize in the segment of your marketing that is government. Okay, you should also have 2 to 3 years of commercial experience. Government doesn't like to deal with brand new companies, unless you're the only one who knows how to get dark energy or something like that. They want to see that you've had some experience in successfully completing contracts. It could be government or commercial experience. You need to be enough expertise at computer systems that you'll be able to comply with contract capabilities. And also in marketing, there's a lot of things you need to do online. So, you need to make sure you're very astute at that. Now, I might say that, when we start up with new clients, quite often we will see that they're trying to do their business on their cell phone. That just does not work. You should also be financially stable. And what that means is that if you have any unpaid taxes or things like that, or have had been in bad financial state at some time, particularly your company, that's a bad sign. You should also have a good customer mix. That is, if you're only relying on one customer now, that's not a good sign. And we will show you later that credit cards can be used to sell something to the government up to about $10,000. So you need to have credit card, which is generally called a merchant account with your bank. Okay, so the federal government has various goals for achieving. And what this means is that they're supposed to, and each agency is supposed to provide 25% of their dollars to small businesses. So 25% of their contracts are supposed to be to small businesses. 15% go to small disadvantaged businesses. These are typically minority companies. And this is under some challenging changes right now, but at least it's on the books. 7% to women-owned small businesses, 4% to service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and then 4% to what they call hub zone. That means historically underutilized business zones. Now, I'm not going to go in today to how you get all of these registrations. That's a whole different kind of discussion. However, it is part of what they call their supplier diversity programs. And so they have these goals, and some of these goals lead to contracts being put out as what they call set-asides. So they might have a request for a proposal or a request for a quote out there, but it will be labeled as set aside for a small business or set aside for a woman-owned small business, etc. And in order to be able to prove that you're going to have to go into their certification programs, register, because you have to prove that your business meets the status of these programs. So that is what's involved in supplier diversity programs. So the first thing you're going to want to do is become what we call procurement ready. And this is what I'm going to be following now in some detail here. So the first thing you need to do is register as a vendor. And there's separate registration for federal vendor and state government vendors. Then you need to develop a marketing strategy. Then you want to make sure that your marketing pitch and all of your collateral information is going to hit a sweet spot with government agencies. So then you need to do some market research. And the market research will show how to find opportunities to bid on contracts. Now, once you've done all of this and learned this, then we will help you with proposals. So if there's a proposal for a contract that you think you could apply for, we can help you with that process. Again, we won't write your proposals for you, but we will help you understand what the requirements are and what you have to be able to step up to win that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of these things to show you how we will help you become procurement ready. So the vendor registration is done through a system called SAM, System for Award Management. And in order to get registered on there, you're going to have to first find your NAICS and PSC codes, obtain what they call a unique entity identifier number. They used to use DUNS numbers, but they don't anymore. Then you register with the System for Award Management. And once you're registered there, you will need to go to a different system called the Dynamic Small Business Search Engine of the SBA. So let me go through some of these now, these steps to show you a little more detail on what we're talking about. So first, finding your North American industry classification codes. It's managed by the department, the Census Department in government. Here's a good load there. This classifies your company or product as to where it falls in marketing. So, for example, if you distribute certain kinds of chemicals, there's a NAICS code for that, NAICS, NAICS codes. So you're going to have to find one that fits your business. Now, I will warn you that these NAICS codes are very broad. So let's say you're selling some kind of a cleaner, specific kind of cleaner. Well, it may only have a NAICS code for janitorial supplies or something like that. So, it doesn't tell anybody really very much about what you actually do. But it is necessary to have at least one NAICS code that you use when you register in SAM. That's because the size standards that SAM approaches that with SBA means that it will designate that you are a large or small business based on the primary NAICS code that you put in there. Because in that SAM registration process, you're also going to be putting in, if you're a service company, you'll need to put your average sales over the last 3 years. So this then determines the size if you're a service company. So the NAICS code has a standard by it. And let's say, for example, you put in a particular NAICS code and you look at the size standards of the SBA, and you might see that 4.5 million is the size standard. What that means is that if your sales are not over 4.5 million per year on average, then you are a small business. Now, manufacturers are classified by the number of employees, so you will also put in the number of your employees. So the information you put in and the primary NAICS code you use for what you are selling is very key. Now, we'll also see that a company can have several codes relevant to the business, but the primary code is the most important one. Now, again, if you sign up for our services or if you're a current client of ours, we can help you find the best codes and, help you through that process. Now, there's also something they call product service codes or PSC codes. And these are often more focused codes divided into goods and services. So the service codes start with a letter. The products codes are a 4-digit code. And this comes from, they've been around a long, long time uh, with being called FSC codes. And now the FSC goes with the service codes to become product service codes. Now the FSC stands for Federal Supply Classes. So here's a good source, a link, Outreach Systems. They have tables of these PSCS codes that you can find, and good source. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is registering in SAM. So SAM registration is a must. It's required by all federal agencies to be able to have a contract or purchase order. And the end result of the registration is it gives you what they call a CAGE code, which is your vendor number. CAGE stands for Commercial and Government Entity Code. So then once you've registered in SAM, SAM actually sets up a record for your company in the SBA's Dynamic Small Business Search database. So this database is linked to information you put in SAM. It could be a free marketing tool because, as you will see, it's used by government agencies and prime contractors to find small businesses that they're looking for to do things like what you might be doing. And registration is also in this system is required for companies applying for some certifications, such as women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned companies. Okay, now how do you get started with SAM? Well, there is a fairly new system called login.gov. And what they have been doing is actually simplifying processes in government contracting so that you need to go to login.gov and set up a user ID and a password. And that user ID and a password can be used across several different government sites. And one of them that uses this login.gov is the SAM site. Now, when you get onto SAM, and make sure that when you go onto SAM, that you're not hitting one of the paid for services that looks like SAM. You want to make sure you are exactly on sam.gov because there are some very tricky companies out there that look like you're getting registered here and they say they're going to help you, this, that, and the other thing. And then you're 3/4 of the way through registering and all of a sudden they want your credit card. So do not pay for anything that we're talking about this morning. If you're uncertain, get in touch with your counselor in Apex to help you through that. But basically, there's a couple of things that SAM is going to be helpful for. First of all, it's getting started. So you're going to need to register your entity. Again, I want to emphasize that you are registering a legal company, an entity, not yourself. So basically, you've got to make sure that if you are, let's say, registered in Pennsylvania as an LLC, that all of your information with the state is up to date so that when SAM looks at what you put in there as your company, that they're going to see that in the state it's the same. Also, the IRS, your EIN number that you get. So there are some little tricks when you want to register in SAM. And if you've not gone through login.gov yet, what will happen is that they will actually send you over to login.gov to get a user ID and a password. And that user ID and password is what you will use to access everything in SAM. Now, the other part that we will help educate you on quite a bit is over here in the contract opportunities. This used to be called federal business opportunities. This is where you're going to be looking to see the actual content of requests for proposals, requests for quotes, etc. So you're going to get to be very, very familiar with SAM and how to use it to be successful. So, as I mentioned, the SBA supplemental data is very key because, again, if government agencies and prime contractors want a small business or somebody that's certified as a woman, like a woman-owned small business, they will find you. And when you look at your record after you've registered for SAM, you go in and look at the DSBS record, you will find that there's a lot of stuff that you could fill in there. And particularly, you want to add some more information. So we recommend that you add keywords because contracting officers and prime contractors will be searching by keywords. So let's say if you're janitorial service, you want to be putting in there whether you do, outside maintenance. Do you do windows? Do you wash walls? So they're going to be looking for some very specific things. And you want to put as many descriptors of what you're offering in there as you can. Now, also, there's a thing they call capability narrative. And this is a section under products or services where you can put in a few sentences describing your business's products and services. Could even be like a comma delimited list of things that you do. Then third is the references. And as I said at the beginning, they don't want to see companies that are brand new, have no experience with contracting anywhere. So they're looking for references of business you may have done in the past. And this is what they call your past performance. Again, when you get to this stage, we have a guide to help you figure out where to go and how to do all of this. So everything I'm talking about, we can help you with. So let's turn to marketing. And, this is pretty basic stuff. So first of all, you need to identify what customer problem do you solve. Now, we get from time to time a client saying, well, I don't know what I want to sell. I just want to get into business because I think government's got money and I want some of that money. That really doesn't work. And the whole issue for basic marketing that a lot of people forget is that potential customers have a perception of what their need is, what their problem is, what they want somebody to do for them. So just throwing out a bunch of words or things like I'll do anything doesn't really resonate with them. So what you have to do is get more familiar with the possible customers you're going to work with and what do they really perceive their problem is that you can solve. So then you want to kind of figure out who buys what you offer, obviously. Now we're going to be talking too when you're going to get into this marketing stage, we'll be talking about the supply chain because a lot of times the target market for people may not actually be a government agency. It may be another contractor. Example of this is we had a client who invented a new type of concrete. It was, better blast resistant, et cetera. And they kept looking for government agencies, particularly Army Corps of Engineers, who would buy concrete. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is that government doesn't really buy materials. They give contracts for contractors to build something. And if they want to have a contract that has special blast resistant characteristics, they put that in as a requirement for the contractor. So the client I'm talking about really started looking at contractors who have done building projects for the military services, and that became their target market. So you also want to take a look at what contracts they've had in the past. So what kind of contracts do they use? There are a lot of different kind of contract mechanisms that they will want to use. Different agencies have different contracting practices. So you'll need to know what those practices are. You also need to know what vendors are awarded contracts. So who's your competition now? How much does a particular vendor get? Then you need to decide how you're going to present your solutions. How are you going to present what you offer? And along with that presentation, you need to be specific about what advantages you can present to the government agency. Because quite frankly, in a lot of kinds of products and services, a government agency may have contracts out there that they've awarded to 30 or 40 different companies, and they have contracts out there. And they say, okay, well, that's fine. You say you do a really good job in this area, but I already got 30 or 40 people I can turn to. So you have to see for the particular target you're looking at, what advantages can you convince them you give to that agency or to a prime contractor? So our government marketing strategy in conducting market research is, first of all, define the target agencies and prime contractors. Then, as you define that, you need to develop a contact or prospect list. Now, in federal government work, contracting officers are the only people who legally can publish a solicitation, that is a request for quote, request for product, request for proposals, etc. They're the only ones legally who can do that. Excuse me. However, the most important people to talk to are the end users. We could give you a lot of examples where maybe a program manager, somebody who's responsible for maintaining a particular kind of service, that they have a need. They will then go to the contracting officer and say, okay, here are the requirements for what I'm looking to find. And, sometimes, and more often than you would suspect, the request for purchasing that goes to the contracting officer from this end users gets uh, gets confused, so that many times the end user doesn't give the contracting officer enough information. So the contracting officer goes out there with a solicitation that just won't work. And we've seen this quite a bit. So, this is important, that what we want to try to do for all of our market research is find these people, the people who have decision authority, who know what the requirements are, etc. Now, the other list of contacts or prospects, as I mentioned before, are prime contractors. So see what big boys out there that maybe you want to hook up with and offer part of their service. So in particular, a lot of different kinds of consulting services. You may have some very big companies like Accenture or some of those, and there's a certain level of business they don't want to touch. So they often will look out for prime contractors. The prime contractors look out for subcontractors. Then the other group of people that you want to get to know are what we call the small business utilization offices. Every federal government agency has small business utilization offices. Their job is to try to help small businesses navigate their agency and find the right people to talk to, maybe what type of contracting they use. So these people are supposed to be the champions of small businesses within their agency. And once you identify the target agencies, we can help you find the right people to talk to in their small business office. So more government marketing strategy. You're going to have to learn the bidding process. So they will put a solicitation out, and there will be lots of requirements of what you have to put in your bid. So you'll need to learn how to do that bidding process. You will need to know who your competition is. And there are ways that in some cases you can find maybe the pricing that your competition.
How can I help you?
So, hey, somebody's live still out there. Then you need to make your capabilities known to them and follow up with them. Sometimes you can attend procurement conferences and trade shows. Now, most of this is virtual today. So they're going to have what they call industry days, and those are announced actually on the SAM under the area of opportunities. So that's another good marketing consideration, is to know when those conferences are coming up. And finally, we really recommend that you have a professional website with a separate page for government contracting. Now, your website may have quite a bit of information on what you do that's relevant to government, but what we recommend is that if they only have to click on one page to get everything that they need from you, then that's going to be a plus for them. But if you reach out to somebody and you start having a relationship and they might be interested in you, that's one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to go to your website. So you want to make sure that's professional and easy for government contractors to find it. Now, one of the things that we offer is what's called a bid match search service. And it searches for bidding opportunities for our clients. It's open to all of our Apex clients at no charge. And what it does is it develops a search profile based on the codes and keywords you put in. So notice that I said keywords. Keywords are very important to put into your dynamic small business search database, but they're also important to be able to send to us so that we can find people putting out solicitations based on the keywords that you give us. So if it makes a match, it's going to send the result of that match to your email every day. And what it will send you is typically a link to the exact place where you will find where to find the information to make a bid. Now this is a partial list of the federal and state sites, but it actually goes against probably 20 or 30 different main databases. But in addition to that, it will also give you state and local opportunity listings. So it will give you the listings that come out at the state level, and that can be very important. So let's talk about subcontracting, because this is, again, you may, if you're new to government contracting, this may be important to you. So subcontracting requirements of the government are such that if a large firm, a non-small firm, has a contract for $750,000 or more, or a construction award of $1.5 million, then they must have a subcontracting plan approved by the agency before the final execution of their award. So that subcontracting plan actually has identified to the government how the contractor is going to find, identify, and use subcontractors. Now, again, we will have sessions on subcontracting and how you can maximize your relationship to find subcontracts and all of that. But that's the law, is that, it really kind of pushes them to the big firms need to have these subcontractors. So some of the national support organizations, again, we have our organization, this Association of Procurement Technical Assistants. There's about 330 locations, 90 some Apex groups, but 330 some locations around the country. And they are members of this APTAC, which means that if we can't find information that you need, we have colleagues that are part of this association, such as we are, and we can reach out to some of our colleagues nationwide to see if anybody out there has solved that problem in the past. So this is a good association that helps us help you. Then the Small Business Administration has quite a bit of information for you out there. They have online courses such as this one and others, but they also have information on sometimes on bank loans, sometimes on bonding. So the SBA has quite a bit of information out there for small businesses. Then there's a thing called GSA, or the General Services Administration. Now the GSA gets involved in all sorts of different kind of contracting activities, And again, we're not going to go into that much today, but we can help put you onto them and where they might have information for you. So, your action items based on this. First of all, decide if government contracting is for you. Now, that might mean that, you will have to do a little research, or having seen what I've said that you have to get into, decide, is that something you really want to try to do? Also, then, if you decide you're going to do that, sign up as an Apex client. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. And probably the best value we have to a lot of businesses just starting this is that we keep you from making mistakes, and we make your efforts much more efficient in finding the information you need to make valid decisions. So then you need to register as a vendor in SAM for federal, and on states, they have their own registration processes. You need to carve out some time and other assets. So if you're a fairly small business, maybe only one or two people in the business, obviously the company resources that you're going to have to use is your time. But if you're a little larger company, you need to assign somebody to be responsible for the development of this. Then, with our help, you need to develop a government marketing and sales plan and develop some materials that we'll tell you about in another session to approach government agencies. You'll conduct market research to focus on a few agencies or prime contractors. And when you get ready, we want you to sign up for the Apex Bid Match program that will send you daily opportunities to bid on things. So this is our plan. The final step here is you're going to execute that plan. Now, again, I have to emphasize that, this is a lot to do. Take it a step at a time. We will help you at every junction. Your Apex counselor, if you're having trouble with something online, they can set up a Zoom session with you, go through it with you online to help you understand what you're supposed to put in. Again, we won't do the work for you, but we will certainly do as much education and hand holding and advising that we need to do to help you be successful. Okay, so that's it. Or do we have a lot of questions here now?
Thank you so much, Bruce. We do have a couple of questions. So I just also want to let you know that we are building on today's session by and subsequent session that we're holding this next week. So tomorrow we're going to have a beginner's guide to marketing to government. So if you have not signed up for that event, please do. We did spend quite a bit of time discussing SAM.gov walkthrough. And so I'll be holding that session next week on the 13th. And Bruce mentioned one of the major tools in government contracting is developing your capability statement, which is going to be held on September 14th. So please, do sign up. And as Bruce also mentioned, yes, bid match is one of the tools that we do offer, but we also want to make sure that you're procurement ready before we provide you with that service, that you have necessary steps to actually pursue these contracts. Because you don't want to be in a situation when you're not fully registered in SAM and find an opportunity that is perfect for you. So to answer one of our participants' questions, hello, Rachel. Thank you for asking. Yes, this session is recorded, and both the PowerPoint and a recording will be sent to you in a couple of days. And we also have a YouTube channel. Beth, our assistant, if you wouldn't mind putting in a chat for everybody our YouTube channel address, as well as our website address for the events if you want to sign up. So, yes, we'll make those available. I do have a question from Ray, and it's when entering number of employees, do you count W-2s, 1099s, or both?
For employees? Yeah.
Correct. But I'm
Yeah.
assuming it
Well,
means registering in SAM.
in registering in SAM, they should be an employee, not a 1099, if they're registering, because whoever registers in SAM is the administrator for the SAM uh, process. So, you want to make sure that the person that, goes to login.gov and then SAM, that person becomes the administrator for your interaction with those systems.
Yes.
That answer the question, you think?
Yeah, I think you do. I think, yes. So I think 1099, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, is that considered subcontracting work to somebody?
Well, yes, but you can do subcontracting a couple of different ways. 1099 really just means they're an independent contractor that you pay on that basis. But if you do a 1099, you must have an agreement with them that they are not an employee, and so you're not subject to unemployment insurance and all of that other stuff. The other way to do it is if they're going to be a subcontractor, if they have their own business, would be invoices, so that you're just using another company that invoices you for what they've provided to you. Uh, on a W-2 side, you can have part-time employees with a W-2, but you need to make sure that however they're working, you don't put yourself in jeopardy that you have to be concerned with unemployment compensation and those kinds of things.
Thank you, Bruce. We do have a lot of thank yous, Bruce. So great job. Appreciate it all. So good question from Donald. Is there a division in Northeastern PA, or would the Southwestern Division be willing to help anything in other counties? So yes, wherever your business is registered, you will be supported by your local Apex Accelerator. And the reason why we are divided regionally is because each Apex Accelerator would be able to assist you best with some local opportunities as well. So in this chat, I am going to put a website for aptac.org that Bruce has mentioned. And there you'll be able to find your Apex Accelerator in your specific county. So hopefully you can see that. Can you share a link to register for tomorrow? I believe Beth has just, thank you, Beth, shared all of those links to register for those events as well. I believe cutoff time is 8 a.m. tomorrow morning for registration of this. Another question. I recently saw an RFI on sam.gov. That would be a great fit for my business. Is the RFI an actual opportunity or just a preliminary request for information? Thank you very much. Antonios, Bruce, would you like to answer that question?
Would you repeat it again? I'm sorry.
I recently saw an RFI on sam.gov that would be a great fit for my business. Is the RFI the actual opportunity or just the preliminary request for information?
Oh, yeah, that's just a request for information. We also sometimes call that sources sought. So agencies, for example, if they're trying to have a set aside for a particular opportunity, but they want to set it aside for a small business or woman-owned business, something like that, they will publish a request for information to see who can actually, as a small business, do that kind of work. So it's not actually an opportunity for a contract. It is simply, a request to put in some information to them to tell them you can do that work.
Thank you, Bruce. We have another question from Nauman. Is one of the member If one of the member of the company has experience in implementing foreign projects through its affiliated company in another country, can it be mentioned on capability statement?
Uh, yes. I mean, I don't know. You'd really have to do the research to find out where that particular actions could help you. Sometimes if you're working along with foreign opportunities, that causes additional problems. But it really depends upon the specifics of what that relationship could bring to you. So that's kind of something that you'd want to talk to a counselor in some detail to figure that out.
Yes, and when you're registering in sam.gov, they also want to know if your company has particular subsidiaries.
Yeah.
And they especially want to know if they're in foreign countries. So if if that you mentioned them as an affiliated company and it's not visible through SAM.gov, it could potentially cause problems. Am I correct in saying that, Bruce?
Yes, and in addition to that, if it's an affiliate that has fairly big sales, you might find that if you're affiliated with them, it might put you out of the small business category. Just due to, due to the fact that you have an affiliation. But the whole term affiliation has very specific federal regulations related to it. So again, before you try to list them that way in SAM, I would talk to a counselor and make sure that the specifics are known and what the consequences are.
Thank you, Bruce. So if you have additional questions, if all this dinging you hear is there's people signing up for our webinar, so I really appreciate that. But if you have questions, you also feel free to unmute yourself. And if you don't want to put it in a chat, because this is definitely, we want to make these sessions conversational. Another question, if a solicitation described matches what we do, but the NAICS codes does not match our registration, can we still bid it?
Yeah, but we recommend that what you should do is go back to your SAM registration and put that NAICS code in. So yeah, you want to make it so that there's no disconnect. And if the people judging whether they should give you an award don't see that NAICS code in your SAM registration, that might be a problem. So you should go back and put that in.
Does anyone have any other questions for us?
I have a question.
Sure, Keisha.
I have a question about micro purchase threshold. When you're, I guess I'm trying to actually get a better understanding of what it means when they give you that threshold amount. So, for instance, if a micro purchase threshold is, let's say, $10,000, does that actually mean like the cap of the entire whatever procurement item they're looking for would be $10,000, including your fees, or is it $10,000 not including the fees? Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not sure what fees you would be talking about, but no, it is for that particular purchase, for that particular opportunity, the maximum amount that the government will spend is $10,000.
Okay. Okay. So I guess as far as the fees, I'm more so talking about, I guess, would be like how much I would actually charge to fulfill that order. So it would be, let's just say the item that the government wanted was for $1,000. And then I would add on like my procurement costs onto that cost. Is that how it traditionally works?
Yeah, it's the end amount that the government's going to spend.
Okay.
And typically they would, that's an opportunity a lot of times on credit cards.
Right. Right.
And sometimes particularly if it's service related, uh, you can actually talk the contracting officer to divide that into phases.
Okay.
So that, maybe that you have phase one and they pay you 8,000, and then you go to phase two and they pay you another 8. That's
Okay.
quite a bit.
Okay. Okay. I think I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Stephanie. Do you need an established business to apply for government contracts, or can you apply with a new business?
Well, when you say your established business, it's, again, it's all what your status is in the state that you're registered. So if you are registered and have a registration in your state, such as an LLC or a corporation, then you are an established company for that purpose as an entity. However, the other definition of established is that that entity has had past contracts. So if you haven't done any work for anybody of the type that you're going to propose to the government, then probably you need to be looking at subcontracting to get your feet on the ground.
Thank you, Bruce. Another question from Jen. Can you have multiple NAICS codes on SAM.gov?
Sure. Yep. fact, a lot of people though are not careful in everything. They'll put all sorts of stuff on there that they're not really offering. I mean, had one client that was offering to sell the government electrical energy, just like the people who keep calling you and saying they've got an alternative to PICO or whatever, so, but they put in NAICS codes having to do with operating nuclear plants. And they certainly don't operate a nuclear plant. That just was one of the sources of energy that they might have to the end user or something. But you need to make sure that the NAICS codes actually hit what it is you do.
And yeah, and the contracts you can actually fulfill. I think
Yes, right. Yeah.
you're right. And you have to identify at a minimum of one NAICS code in order to register on sam.gov, but entering all the relevant NAICS codes is important. And it's also important that they match to PSC codes that Bruce has mentioned. You don't PSC codes are not mandatory, but it does make your profile more robust if you identify relevant NAICS code, relevant PSC codes. Okay, let's see. We have another question. Is there a problem if there are no employees versus having all independent contracts work for your company? Contractors work for your company.
It really depends upon the size of it, but you will need to have at least one employee. So that would be you if you're running the business, and then you bring in independent contractors. But as I said before, make sure that your agreement with independent contractors keeps you out of trouble. So yes, we have quite a few clients who are single owners, and but that means that there's one employee, and you don't need to reveal independent contractors when you sign up for SAM or anything else. Just make sure you put in one employee, and that's yourself.
Okay, do we have any other questions before we part ways? If not, I really want to thank you all for participating today. If you have any follow-up questions and you do not have a signed counselor with us, do reach us. We are apex@kutztown.edu email, and we will assign you a counselor in your area. Or if you just have any other logistic questions, we do monitor that email all day, every day, and it is often a best way to reach us. So I know sometimes people feel reluctant to send an email to a generic email, but Beth, our assistant program manager, who is at this session, diligently monitors that inbox for all of your inquiries. Bruce, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. And in the next couple of days, you can expect this presentation and the recording. And hopefully we will